if you could also verify the audio, let me know. Give me a yes in the chat if you can hear us okay. I want to make sure that we're coming through all right. Give me a quick yes as you come in to let us know that we are coming through all right. So today on drboystv.com, the home for intelligent Black people, I get a chance to speak to an awesome guest by the name of Constance Carter. Constance Carter is a financial mogul, real estate mogul. She's just an amazing Black woman. She's a mom. She's out here. She's killing it. She's great at what she does. And first of all, I want to say welcome, Constance.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, and it's an honor to have you here. And as you all come in, I don't know if y'all were able to hear me in the beginning, but give me a yes if you can hear us okay, so we know that our audio is good. And also shout out the city you're from. So let's jump into our topic. And also for those of you listening on Spotify and Apple, you can hear us via audio as well. So just find my name on Spotify and Apple. You can find the podcast there. So, Constance, there was this thing, and I for some reason, the good Lord told me I should ask you about this. And I saw this post on social media of this teenage kid that, and I don't know his name. I'm about to pull his name up. And it said here that where he made a post, and he says, "Mom was pregnant with me, so she missed her senior prom. 18 years later, I took her to mine." And I was really curious about how people feel about that, like this idea of the son taking the mother to prom. And I was curious. I asked people online. I said, is this heartwarming or cringy or something else? Like, tell me what you think. And I saw a lot of mixed reactions, but I was curious to ask you, just as a mom, what did you think when you saw that post?
So far, I'm seeing cringy in the comments, but it's a little bit of an Oedipus type situation for me. So let me preface it and say I have 3 sons. I love my boys dearly. They are my hearts. It used to be every time I've spoiled them. I love on them. I hug them and kiss them all the time. When they pass by, it used to be, they don't let me do it no more. They knew when they passed me by, gotta give mom a hug, gotta give mom a kiss. Like that's us. Like we're so affectionate. But I think that is very cringy. I think it takes away from that child. Like, okay, you didn't have your prom. I get it. And I think it's a nice gesture for the son to say, Mom, you didn't go to your prom because you had me, just go to my prom. And I would have been, if my son would have said that, I'd have been like, oh my goodness, son, that is so awesome. Thank you. Oh my God, you actually considered me. But ain't no way in God's green earth I'm going to the prom with my son. Have you been to the prom? Did you go to your prom, Dr. B?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
yes,
the prom is just a dance with people dressed up. And let's talk about the whole prom culture nowadays anyway, right? It's a whole nother ball game. My kids didn't go through the stuff that I see on the internet, but it's just a dance and people dress up. Girl, go to a gala. Girl, go to some grown and sexy event. Don't go to your son's prom. Let him take somebody his own age. It's crazy.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I wondered how much I'm gonna just say this. If I were to speak for myself, the idea of taking my mother to my prom would make me want to vomit.
I thought you was about to say something heartwarming.
No, it ain't nothing heartwarming about it. It only warms my stomach so I can throw up. Literally, because this idea of taking, because I'm gonna tell you, when I was 18, I ain't gonna lie. Look, my girlfriend was pregnant when we went to the prom. We were getting it in.
Right. That's prom night, right? It ain't taking your mama. It's some stuff going down.
Right. I'm thinking about what's gonna happen at the hotel. I ain't gonna lie. At 18, you know how it is. You discover sex and you think that it's like this thing that nobody else knows about, this magical secret that you found with one other person, and you don't realize till later that the whole world has been knowing about it. You late to the party. And so the idea of my mother being the subject, like the apple of my eye on prom night, it just comes off as odd, awkward. Some might say dysfunctional. If you really want to go further, you might even say inappropriate, in the sense that I think that part of the advantage I also had was I had a father, and it was daddy's job to take my mama to prom, not me.
Right.
Right. And what it makes me wonder, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this. Do you think that this is kind of a product of kind of the environment that has happened, that has sort of been created, when we have so many of us that are accustomed to it being, just me and my mom's, that's it. Daddy nowhere to be found for whatever reason, right? Like, do you think that that's what this is? Like, sort of an awkward outcome from this sort of distorted reality we've been forced to endure as Black people?
I do. I think that it does play into the whole, single mom, ideal of, my that's my son husband. He's the man of the house. He the king of this house. And so, I do that with my boys, but it's just in jest. And I do it to tease my daughter. My kings ain't gonna be, I do that. But, as far as them really being my kings, no, I want a man in this house to be my king. I don't want them little ninjas over here trying to be my king. So I think it does. I think it does lend to that whole, single parent ideology. If I just believe that her as a mom, I think it was nice for him to say, Mom, yo, I love you so much. You sacrificed for me. I think that was great. But for her to actually take him up on it and say, yeah, baby, I'm gonna go. That's a little, I don't fault him. I fault her as the adult.
Okay. Say more.
Yeah. I mean, like, again, this is his prom. Just like you said, Dr. B, you know what goes down at prom. It ain't nothing that has to do with your mama. Mom needs to, go take pictures. Even if you want to sneak in. Let me tell you something real quick. Let me show you what I would do. This is a funny episode on My Wife and Kids. This is my kids said if I ever went to their prom, this is what I would be doing.
What are you showing me? Oh, let me put that on the stage.
This America, honey. Okay? Whoever gets the most votes wins.
Except in Florida.
I can't believe this. I know, Claire. Isn't this the prom you've always dreamed of? No, it's a nightmare. You ruined it for me. How? How did I ruin it for you? Let me see. We're dressed the same way. You're having more fun than I am. And if I try to have any fun, Dad is right there to stop it. Now you want to be king and queen? What's next?
That is hilarious.
That would have been me. Like, if I would have went to the prom with my kids, that would have been me. But no, seriously, like on a serious note, I think that's crazy that the mother would actually do that. I would be that parent to sneak in, see what kids are doing. Let me take some pictures. Oh, that's cute. But as far as me accompanying my son, that's crazy.
Well, and really the thing is, it's about balance in the sense that I think everybody can appreciate a son who loves his mama, right? In fact, I would almost say to any woman, if a man doesn't love his mama or care about his mama or leave his mama out there on the street, that's not a good man for you, right. because your mama is supposed to be that first love, right. And you should treat her appropriately, and that is an indicator of how you're going to treat everybody else. But there is a boundary that is called for where you have to make that transition into manhood, and it seems to me that sometimes that transition into manhood is undermined by this codependence that can be formed, well into adulthood. And I've seen this. I can remember years ago, I had a good friend who had a mama that leaned on him for everything. And I remember 2 or 3 of his girlfriends over the years just getting on the phone and just venting about how every time they were trying to go to the next level in their relationship, his mama would be right there. Or they trying to have a romantic night. His mama's calling saying, I need you to go to the grocery store. And almost to the point where the mama was almost jealous of the girlfriends coming along, right? And so I think that that's where this bothered me, is that I think that it would be more appropriate. And I saw some people say, well, it depends on whose idea it was. Was it her idea, his idea? I think it doesn't matter whose idea it is, because it's up to the mother to stop that, right? Like, so maybe a better approach would be, look, I'm going to go to my prom with my girlfriend because that's who I'm supposed to be with, but I'm going to take my mother to Sunday dinner, or something like that. Why does it have to be the prom?
Right.
That's the thing. You got every other day of the year you can spend with mama. Why the prom? Right. You're not her man. You're not her husband. And I'm going to just tell you, Constance, I think that dysfunction that can sometimes emerge, I think it harms the next stage of his development, right? So imagine 10 years later, you're still taking your mama to the prom and doing all the stuff you're supposed to be doing with a woman, you're doing with your mama for the most part. And then a woman comes along. Well, you're not really available for a woman. You already got a girl. You already got a wife. I mean, that's what I'm thinking. What do you think about just what I just said right there.
100%, I 100% agree. And here's the thing: there's a line, right? Because you want a woman, you want a guy. Me as a woman, I want a man who gets along with his mom and who treats his mom well, who's respectful of his mom, and he takes care of his mom. I think that's admirable. I think it's honorable. But when you get to a point where mom is making you her husband, that becomes, and it doesn't leave room for relationships. I've seen the same thing happen where you have these mama's boys. They can't seem to do anything. They can't seem to grow with the woman because their moms are in the way. Ma Barker, the whole idea of Ma Barker, them my boys, and they out here killing people for her, and they ain't got no other lives because it's all about their mama. And I get it. That lady birthed you. She sacrificed for you. But at the same time, we as mothers, we have to back up and allow our men to be men. I'm now a single mother. Unfortunately, that's the way that life is right now. I wasn't always a single mother. For their formative years, I was married. But now me as a single mother, I have to try to figure out, because now I was always the nurturing one and the one that coming in and loving and hugging and kissing the boys. Now I have to be a little bit harder, because I want them to go out in the world and be men. I'm not a man. I can never be a man. I can never do that. That's, I can only be a mom, but I have to act outside of my feminine element to make sure that they are getting some sort of masculine energy so that they can be real men. I teach my sons to be gentlemen. I teach them to be nurturing. I teach them to be chivalrous, all of those things. I teach them not to, hit girls and things like that. And so, and I also teach them to love. My oldest son, I call him Lover Boy. He always hugged up with someone. He always got a girlfriend. And I remember one time the girlfriend, she was a little, he was her first boyfriend, and she was a little overbearing. And I try not to get into my kid's business that way. He's only 19. They're, freshman. He was a freshman in college. And I said, listen, I like what you like. I'm here to support what you support. But here's the thing, as a mother, from what I see, and I'm not trying to get in your business, son, but I'm just trying to enlighten you. Some of the things that I see, the way she talks to you in public, I would check that, because if she disrespects you, then are you there?
I am still here. I'm
trying to put me in there.
I'm hitting the wrong buttons. That's what's going on. Keep going. You're right there. Go ahead.
If she disrespects you, then other people are going to disrespect you. And so as a mother, it's our jobs to guide and to lead. I want you to be a man. Another thing I told him, because he was holding her purse in public. I was like, you ain't holding nobody's purse. You ain't gonna hold this woman's purse unless she's pregnant by you or something like that. But I don't want you holding that little girl's purse. Those are two things I said. I just want, and there was other things that I observed, of course, as a mother, but I'm not going to insert my opinions too strongly, because number one, I want them to be able to talk to me about anything, but I want them to be men and grow into their relationship. So I'm going to tell them certain stuff. And so it was funny because I told him, and he was like, you know what, you're right. He said, I'm gonna have a conversation with her. And I said, okay, do not tell her I said it. Okay. Because then, it's gonna lose its weight. Don't tell her I said it. And so he was like, okay, I'm not gonna tell her. So I don't know if you ever watched SpongeBob, but on SpongeBob, Mrs. Puffs, there was this bully that was trying to beat up SpongeBob. And SpongeBob told Mrs. Puffs, and Mrs. Puffs was like, I'm going to take care of it. And so she goes to the bully. She comes back. She goes, SpongeBob, I talked to the bully. And he was like, you did? She said, I said your name. And so that's what that reminded me of. The fact that I told this boy not to say nothing. We were right over there saying, my mama said, right? And so then it just deflated everything that he was trying to tell her. However, I do, as the mother, I think it's our responsibility to, just kind of keep that balance between us and our boys and make sure that they are men and not codependent on us as women. We are softening and weakening our men for the women in the society. And then I think about my daughter, right? How these mama's boys, how that affects a girl like her who's looking for a man, and he codependent on his mama. How is he going to be a good man to her? So it's all of those things that we really got to look at when we're looking at, how we're nurturing our boys to be men as women, because it's tough. Women shouldn't be the sole ones raising boys, but in many cases that we are. So we have to be cognizant of women, of how we're raising these Black males, because there's so many things that they're going to have to face with. My son got pulled over by the police a few months ago. Police put a gun in his face for no reason because he was Black. driving a black Lexus. You know, those are things that we have to deal with. And I was on FaceTime, but those are things that we have to deal with as, you know, black males, and we have to prepare them for that. Making them soft and codependent on us, it does not serve our children to do so.
Well, you know what? And by the way, I'm speaking with Constance Carter, and we're talking about a kid on Instagram. His name was Nasir. Nasir is he's out of Pennsylvania, by the way. His name was Nasir. They don't have his last name on here, but he attends O'Hara High School, and he asked his mother to the prom, and she said yes. And there's a little bit of controversy around this. And everybody, if you're listening, please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. So what I'm really thinking here, I'm gonna say this. When I look at this, I'd like to ask you this question, Constance, as a woman. When you were, 17, 18, 19, and you, let's say that there was a boy that you were interested in, and he said, well, I'm going to take my mom to prom. Does that make him more attractive, less attractive, or does it not make a difference? Like
Weird.
Do you think that would look weird? I almost feel like men that are appealing to women don't.
No, they don't take their mom to prom. No, it will make them weird. Like,
okay.
And if you're looking at it from a biblical perspective, and I know they're not married, but you're supposed to leave and cleave. You're supposed to leave your mom, and that also tells me that once we get married, mama gonna be all up in the business. Once we get and so then there's that debate I've seen online. Does the mom sit in the front seat or does the wife sit in the front seat? There's been controversy around that, and the husband's like, no, my mama in the front seat. My husband at the time would never allow his mom to sit in the front seat over me because I'm his wife. However, me as a woman, I would allow her to sit in the front seat. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Just because that's my elder, and I would do that.
Yeah, my mother and my wife wouldn't even fight about the front seat. They're both the kinds of women that would offer the other woman the front seat.
Right.
And I think that speaks to the kinds of women you invite into your life.
Absolutely.
I would never. I love my wife, love her to the end of time and the end of the earth. But if she showed any inkling of wanting to fight with mama and the people that I love, you can't fit. There's no room for you in this organization because and it's not. Maybe it's not fair because sometimes you have relatives that are assholes, and it's not right that somebody gets mistreated by that. But still, it's just like that idea of even that competition happening. It's not just the tension period is toxic and unhealthy. Forget who's right and who's wrong.
Right.
Right.
No, and that's exactly what she's setting her son up for, is those types of decisions. Are we we're out at dinner and mama calling. Oh, it's mom's, she over here. Oh, and we doing this. Oh, mom's is calling. What's going on? Mama need me to go, and so I gotta get up real quick and go because mama need that. No, absolutely not.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it's I wanted to bring this topic to the platform and also to you because you and I talk about things like wealth and economics and achievement, things like that, and a lot of people don't even understand how this even would link to the economic outcomes in our community. But I personally believe that part of the struggle that you see economically in the community in terms of the men not being able to do the things that we know the men are capable of doing, it starts with little things like that, right? It can start with the coddling mother who does not allow him to grow into the kind of provider financially and otherwise, emotionally, spiritually, etc., that he needs to be as a grown man, right? Like it almost seems to me that because I can just think about this in the sense that I had a single mother till I was 3 because my biological father was on drugs. I was adopted when I was 3 by a man who got off of drugs and was a very masculine kind of guy. He just kind of made clear lines about like if I ever invited my mama to prom, he would probably slap me and be like, "What's wrong with you?" Right? and what that allowed me to do was I could leave the house and go live my own life. I didn't have to spend my 20s, wondering, "Mama, you okay? Oh, mama, your boyfriend dumped you. I got to go check on my mama. I got to make sure my mama gets her medication." Never had any of that for 20 or 30 years. So what that allowed me to do was when I decided I wanted to date somebody or when I wanted to get married, it wasn't like I already had this woman in my life that I was responsible for and then say, okay, you can join the harem now. Now it's you and my mama.
Right.
And I think that
Right.
I really think that, and here's the thing: if I'd had that other reality of constantly having to worry about my mama, constantly having to be there for my mom, and I was never raised out of that, I don't think I would have ever gotten ready to marry Alicia.
Right.
I don't because it's hard enough having a wife and children. It would be much more difficult if I had a wife, a children, and a mama.
Right.
Who was also, a wife figure in my life. I just think that's something we have to talk about, because I think that does inhibit the progress of some of our men. So when you hear women complaining like, okay, some of these guys haven't grown up, blah, 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 look at the relationship with his mama. That might tell you some things. I don't know. Am I being harsh when I say that?
Well, then you think about, because I've studied like narcissism, because I've ran across a couple of narcissists, and narcissists are really kind of built because of their relationships or lack thereof with their mother. They have mommy issues. They have, their moms have abandoned them in some way. Their dads have abandoned them in some way. And so then it breeds this type of behavior of people who can, they can't really love anybody. So the ecosystem of our family is unfortunately under attack because of, our family structures are broken up. A lot of us don't have males in the household. A lot of our families are run by single households. All of those things that face us every day. Then you look at this, a lot of stuff, a lot of debates, because we see them all over. You talked about it the day before yesterday. I talked about it yesterday. The whole 50-50 thing. Should men be taking care of this and all that, right? So all of these are factors. When you talk about how does this play into wealth, all of these play into wealth because our family structure is under attack, and it has been since the inception of this country, but even more so as we've gone throughout the years, because when you talk about, there were more marriages post slavery than there are today. I think didn't you say that in your live?
Yeah, after slavery, Black people got married more often then than they do now, and they stay married longer.
Right. So the family structure is kind of like, dying out a little bit, and we're not seeing, and you need that equal balance of masculinity and femininity in order to really raise and nurture strong, healthy children. Unfortunately, a lot of us don't come from that. And then it results in a lot of dysfunction and toxicity that's passed down, intergenerationally. So all of this does affect, and then, our wealth is affected because we're not working together, because in order to go further, we got to work together, and we're at odds. And we talking about who should pay for what, and this, all this silly stuff about and what a man's supposed to be and what a woman's supposed to be. And, I've seen if you single over 45, then, something wrong with you. And it's like, I'm single over 45 for number one, I was married for 116 years, but number two, baby, I just want to take a break for a minute. And maybe a man doesn't define me, but there's all these things, especially in our community. And maybe I only see it in our community because I only look at within our community. I don't know if they're having these discussions outside of our community, but I know it's very prevalent. And so it speaks to sort of the Willie Lynch syndrome about, separating, the old from the young, the men against the women, the light skin against the dark skin. Like, we are at odds, and we really need to be coming together at this time and not really worried about, all this other stuff in terms of being at odds. But this, I think, contributes to the breakdown of our family structure.
Yeah, well, by the way, everybody, I'm talking to Constance Carter, and we're talking about this 18-year-old kid who decided to invite his mother to the prom. And I see that a lot of you have different opinions about it. And I want you to know we're not here to tell you what to think. But Constance Carter, who's a very smart Black woman, she has a lot to say on this issue. And I thought she'd be a perfect person to bring in to discuss this. If you could do me a favor, please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. Also, Constance's Instagram is I am Constance Carter. Did I say that right? Did I spell it right, Constance?
Yes, sir.
There we go. I am Constance Carter. You should follow her. She does content every day. She's extremely smart. She did a great job at the All Black National Convention, and is an extraordinary person that everybody should know. I'll make my last point. I'll let you finish this out on this, Constance. I think it's interesting. One thing I'm trying to process is, we know our families are going in a different direction. It's just not what it was, say, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. A lot of crazy things have happened to Black people, from mass incarceration to what happened with the war on drugs to everything else, right? So it's just sometimes to somebody like me, it looks like a shit show. It does. It looks sad. You see trauma just everywhere. Trauma getting thrown around like it's COVID-19. Like literally just everybody's infecting everybody with more and more trauma and chaos. And in fact, I mean, just to even give you an idea, of how crazy I think the environment has become. Just yesterday, one of my friends told me her best friend since childhood got murdered by her husband in front of their daughter. He just did, the relationship ended. He couldn't handle it. He stabs her in front of the baby and then tried to stab himself, but he didn't die. Right. This is real life stuff. The week, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks earlier, I had a cousin who his family broke up. His wife got remarried, and now she was getting remarried. Next thing you know, he dies from a drug overdose. This is the same month, all in the same month. And I could tell you more stories, but I don't want to make everybody sad. My point is to say that I see so much pain, and I see so much trauma, dysfunction, sadness, and I don't know what to make of it. I would say that those that don't want to be in the middle of the pain, you got to find a way to climb your way out. And one way I found to climb out is to make sure that you are healthy, so you show up healthy for other people. So you got to get healthy, acknowledge your trauma, and acknowledge your dysfunction, and then try to be around people. Make sure you value yourself enough to only deal with people who've also healed, right? There are those of us who have a commitment to healing, those of us who do not. And so what we then see is once you're starting to elevate and you start to see the world almost like literally you're elevating off the ground and you're looking down and you're seeing the trauma and dysfunction everywhere. I just think that there's a segment of the world that's just going to live a new reality. As much as I want to believe that it takes two healthy parents to raise a healthy child, I don't see a lot of the world going in that direction. It's very rare. My daughter, she was my adopted daughter, but I love her. When she was on her high school basketball team, I asked her, I said, how many of your friends have a father in the house? And she said, none of them. Not one. She could not think of one friend that had a father in the house. Right. So here's what I'm getting at. So I'm almost thinking, I guess, is this going to be part of the new reality? And is there a way that could be healthy in its own weird way? I don't know. Because what I see from my perspective, my own bias is I see like these Black women that just, for whatever reason, they end up doing it by themselves. And as a result of living in a tough world, they become very tough people. And we see Black women, flying and kicking ass, taking names, getting all the good jobs, making the good money, starting the businesses and all this stuff. Right. And and some of it's like partly trauma response, right? Like they're in survival mode. Like my grandmother was strong as a bull because she had to be, right? So what then happens, and I've seen this, is that the sons that get raised by these super strong women, well, some of these sons end up being weak little bitches. I really believe that. Just weak ass bitches. Because think about it. Your mama did everything. Your mama, I remember seeing a Black woman that had a shirt that said something like, F it, I'll just do it myself. And she said, this is the slogan for Black women. Screw it. I'm gonna just do it myself. Since I can't depend on nobody else, I'm gonna do it myself. So here's what happened, right? This is a real story. I'm thinking about a real example here. So the son watches his mother as the superhero, kick ass, take names. Like it's like if you're on a basketball team, she's Michael Jordan, she's scoring all the points. You could just sit on the bench and watch her play. So then check this out. He gets to be 18, 19, and when he's looking for a woman, he's looking for somebody just like his mama.
Right.
He's like, I know my position. And really there's women out there that will take that role because they got raised as right. They got raised as a superwoman. So he literally settles in behind, in what I think is a highly non-traditional, odd, it looks weird to me, right? But he literally settles in as the beta. She's the alpha. And then the relationship works. She's barking and telling him what to do. And he's like, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, doing what his mama said. Except now it's not his mom anymore. She's called his wife. What do you think about the example I laid out there?
I think it's very true. And you know what? So my situation was similar to that, right? So I was married for a long time. I was with my ex for like 30 years since I was 15. But he didn't come from that. He didn't come from that environment. He had dad and mom in the house. And so when we got married, our goal was to, I started making a lot of money early on. And I said, okay, you can quit your job, join me in real estate. He got his real estate license, but he never really did anything with the real estate. So he kind of just stayed home. And so because I was out, nobody works harder than Constance Carter. So I'm working and grinding and trying to create this life for the family and trying to give experiences to my children. And I rose up to the occasion because I could make the money. It's not hard for me to make money. I can go out there and I can make money. And, of course, I could probably always make much more than he was ever capable of making. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But when I needed help, because in 2009 I filed bankruptcy, and when I needed help, when I said, hey, I need you to, you know, step it up because now we need some help, he was like, you told me to quit my job, and so I'm chilling. So, you know, he never rose to the occasion, and I never thought about it because I was so busy in the grind, in the hustle, and when I would hear people say, you know, it's not natural for a woman to be the provider for a man, it's not natural for a man to not contribute to the household, I never understood that until the end of the relationship, or until I stepped back from the relationship and I seen, you know, the response and the entitlement and what he wanted and all those things that I ended up being so totally the man, especially in the divorce, with, you know, them thinking I was like Dr. Dre, and they was like trying to go after all, you know, everything. I had to give alimony out, bought my house and all of these things, right? So but I didn't realize that how that did affect him, because, you know, when it was good and he was spending the money, it was great, but it did really affect his self-esteem, because you know, he felt like I think his response and the way he did things, obviously he had to feel some kind of insecurity in his role inside the household. Now, money for me doesn't equal who's in charge. You know, I still submitted. I didn't believe that just because I made the money that I was, you know, I was the head of the household. I didn't do that, but it still did affect him, even though I worked really hard at saying, hey, I couldn't do this if you didn't do that. Hey, this is us together. Hey, we're in this together, right? Really trying to nurture and build him up. It didn't matter, because actually in the back of his mind, even though he didn't say it, it did affect how he felt about himself, because he wasn't the one. So he had to act like he was. So it does. So, and then when I talked to my boys, because I asked my boys yesterday, because me and my daughter were going to have this discussion on Flying and Being Queen about, you know, this whole idea of 50-50 and what they're talking about, and, you know, men taking care of the household. And my boys, I asked my boys, well, what do you think? Would you allow a woman to, you know, would you go 50-50 with the woman? And they said, absolutely not. And I'm like, huh? The way you were raised in a household where your mom did 100% financially. And they were like, yeah, no. They're like, I want to take care of the household, and she could use her money for whatever. If she wants to contribute, she can. But they're like, no, it's my responsibility. And I'm like, well, that's not what you've seen. And they're like, well, they were like, well, look at where we are. But they're like, you know, that's not, but they're like, this is what I want. I want to be the one, because for me, it feels good for me to be a man and take care of my household. And so I'm so glad that they have that thought. It's not something that I taught them, you know, directly, that, hey, you be the man, you take care of the house. I just thought by them seeing that, they were going to think that it was okay for them to let a woman take care of them, and it's not. And so I'm so grateful for that. But it is not a natural thing for, you know, a woman to be taking care of a man, because, you know, it just messes. I think it messes with them in their psyche. But we are building a generation of men who are depending on women. Here's what I will say to Black women, because we are now, you know, but we have been single mothers, and we've been raising these boys, and raising these kids. We're raising these girls to be strong, and we raising these boys to be bitches, just like you said, just these weak ass bitches. And so it's on us, because if we are the ones that are raising these kings, and we are the head of our households, and it's, you know, daddy ain't around. Okay, daddy ain't around. We have to look at ourselves, and we have to look at the situation. We got to say, what kind of men are we raising? And we have to really be cognizant and be proactive in how we are raising them, and making sure that we are raising strong Black men who can face the world, who can deal with certain things, who can deal with adversity, who can go out in the world and they can make something of themselves, and they can be good, strong providers for their families. We have to make sure of that, because nobody else is doing it. We can't teach them how to be men, but we can teach them how to be, you know, healthy and productive people in society from our perspective, you know, as a mother. But we have to do that. We don't got a husband in the house to do it. We got to do it. But a lot of us are too busy being their friend, or want them to be their son, husband, you know, they kings and all that stuff, you know. So we got to do a better job as Black women, I believe.
Well, you know, I don't disagree. I mean, I'd say that, you know, every woman raising a boy, just when he gets about 16 or 17, ask yourself, would I marry a man like this? If that was my husband, would I be happy? You know, and you measure how responsible is he? How you know, is he a reliable, decent human being?
Right.
You know, this weird thing that happens. Nobody loves you like your mama. You know, like you really could be a serial killer, and your mama would say, my baby would never do that to nobody. You know, and it's amazing how you could go, you could do horrible. You could be Adolf Hitler, and come home to your mama, and she'll
And
still
I
love
really
you.
believe he ain't that's not my baby. No, my
Right,
baby.
right. So that is a level of love that I can never quite comprehend, but I
Yeah,
admire
Papa
it.
turned him in.
Yeah,
Pops turned him in.
right. Well, I'll tell you what, I admire it and I appreciate it, but sometimes that love is not always beneficial long term, because sometimes you need something that's going to make you the kind of person that other people can depend on. And I just think about that when I just think about guys that, for example, went out in the world and made a bunch of babies and didn't take care of them, and the mother kind of covering for them and all that other stuff. And you got to ask, like, what kind of toxic waste are you dumping onto the world, onto your community, onto your sisters?
Right.
Again, I would just ask that basic question: Would I want to be with a man like this? And if he's not that kind of man, maybe the question is, what can you do to support that, right? And at the very least, we have this issue of enabling behavior, and I understand it to a point, because I think that if we had a community where most kids didn't have a mother, but they were all raised by their dads. Well, what I think would happen is that the boys would be much more solid than the girls, because the boys would have constant mentorship. They'd always have daddy right there to show them what to do, how to act, how to carry themselves. It would be the girls who would be falling to the wayside, because the girls would get spoiled. I spoil our girls. I don't, there's times where I will even just today, there's times where I let something slide, and it was my wife who stepped up and said, no, 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 you get your ass up there and you did it. You know what I mean? It's always that same sex parent that sets you straight. It's the other parent who kind of lets it, oh, well, she cried, so we should let her stay home from school. And the mother's like, no, get your ass up and put your clothes on and get on the bus now. Right.
But that's why we need that balance. We
Yes,
do. The kids
yes.
need that balance of male and female. And when you don't have it, kids are off balance. Now, it doesn't mean that they can't rise above it. It doesn't mean that they can't be great citizens in the world, in spite of it. But that it's necessary to build strong, healthy, normal. I don't want to say normal, but just good, solid people that we want to, put out in the world. For me, because I am now a single mother, and I am pretty much the only parent that they have that's active, right? Their dad is there. We're in different states now. But he's not really involved. But it doesn't serve me. And this is what women have to understand too. When they try to alienate their kids from their dads, when they talk negative about their fathers, when they do all those things, it does not serve me for them to be at odds with their father. It does not serve me. It does not serve them, especially. I want them to be happy and healthy and loving, and them being at odds, or them not having a relationship or some kind of balance with their father. That's not good. So when people try to say, or people say, I've heard, oh, she just trying to turn my kids against me. It's like, no, that doesn't serve me to turn them against you. I want them to have a good, happy, healthy relationship with you, because you are important. You're an important factor in their life. And so women, we have to stop doing that. We have to stop turning our kids against their daddies, or talking about their daddies, or, even the other way, the dad's talking about the mom in front of the kids, all of those things, because they need to have healthy relationships with both parents, whether they're together or not, because it's for the betterment of the kids. A lot of times, we can't see past our pain, our dislike for the other person, in order to try to breed happy, healthy children. And, it's unfortunate that we do that we allow, our disdain for the other parent to blind, or, stop our relationship with our kids. I hate that for a lot of our children in our community, but it happens. I was just talking to somebody today, and we were both talking because we had very present fathers when we were together, and then when we weren't, they weren't. And it's like, I felt like I'm in the Twilight Zone, because I would never in a million years imagine he ain't here for these kids. That's so weird, because he was so present. But a lot of people, or some men, or some people, period, they won't see past their disdain for their former spouse to still continue to take care of their children. And that's the unfortunate thing, I think.
Well, I do know that I think one awesome thing that good women do very well, I think, is they help facilitate the bonding between the children and the child, or the children and the grandchild, etc. And I learned about that just from watching how, I have one biological child, and I have several adopted kids, and one of my adopted kids, she when she had her kids, she would deliberately create scenarios for me to interact and engage with the grandkids, right? Because she knew that I had, I wasn't sure how to feel in this grandfather role. I didn't know exactly what I was supposed to do. And they're just like, okay, who is this dude? And she would create spaces where that engagement would occur. And I think the same thing can happen when you're talking about parent children. Like the mother has a natural connection to the child that starts in the womb. It starts with the oxytocin in the brain that is released during the pregnancy. The bond is detachable. It's just you don't even have to think about it. It just happens. Men have to be bonded with things, right? And it comes with spending time around somebody, etc. So I would imagine that a father who does not live in the same house with the child is going to have a tougher time with the bond because men were just built different in that way, And I think that the best thing I think a mother could do is to just do everything she can to really encourage that connection. Like, okay, here you go spend some time with your daddy. Okay, call your dad. Don't disrespect your daddy. And I think that the respect piece is really big too. And some of us forget that, but I just think a basic simple rule is you never disrespect your child's parent ever.
Right.
No matter
Yeah.
what they did, whatever kind of person they are, they got to find out on their own. You cannot be a person who's going to talk crazy about his mama. He'll never, ever let that slide. Or you talk crazy about her daddy. She might side with you, but she's going to suffer because you're taking her father away from her.
Right.
If you speak ill of the father, you're taking her father away. And so she goes through life without a father, even though he might be readily available, but she's going through life without her daddy because somehow mom convinced her that daddy's such a terrible person that she shouldn't even mess with him or be around him. And that parental alienation piece, my wife is a therapist who works with a lot of families. She said that therapists are starting to really crack down on rampant parental alienation. There are lots of kids, millions of kids out here who, had a parent who was angry for whatever reason and alienated the child from the other parent. And they have it all broken down to a science. I encourage anybody who's going through it or who has seen it to go research parental alienation so you can understand it, because they understand it like she can. I wish Alicia was here because she could break it down to like the different ways that it happens. Like, okay, then what happens is the custodial parent sides with the child and they form an alliance against the other parent, and then the kid feels guilt and da. They broke it all down. And then when she broke it down to me, I said, oh my God, this is happening in so many of our families and we don't even talk about this.
Yeah. I'm really fortunate and really blessed. My parents have been divorced since I was 4, or they separated when I was 14. They divorced a few years later, but they are best friends. So my dad's remarried, and my mom, my dad, and his wife, I call my mom and my dad's wife sister wives, right? Because they all, and it is in a joking, lovingly way. But they all work together. When I lived out there, they all worked together to pick up my kids, take care of my kids, and they created this great community and great environment. But I know even before my parents remarried, because my mom was married as well. And her ex-husband is actually part of the fold as well. So she's not married to her ex-husband anymore, but he lives with my mom, and my mom kind of takes care of. So they're all friends. It's a great community and it's a great village. But even when they were separated, my parents never allowed us to disrespect the other one. My dad always said, they had their own issues, but my dad was always, you're going to respect your mama. And my mom was always, you're going to respect your dad. Your dad's a good man. Your dad has a good heart, so they all take up for each other. And so I would love to have that type of situation because my parents are best friends. I think you could be best friends and it's good for the kids. And they see this, even though we're not together, we're healthy and we're still a family and we can still be cool and we can still, engage in all those things. It doesn't have to be anything negative. And so, it would be great. That would be ideal. You don't got to be romantically linked to still have respect. But at minimum, if you're not going to have any kind of interaction with the other person, at minimum, don't divide the kids up to be against the other parents. And, because the kids are going to see anyway. At the end of the day, they're going to see what's really going on, and they're going to end up resenting the person who took them away from their daddy or took them away from their mommy because of, because their own, anger and all of those things. So they're going to see for themselves. You ain't got to tell them nothing. Whether that parent shows up or not, these kids are going to see. You don't have to add, you don't got to punctuate anything. You got to add on it, nothing.
That's right. That's right. Well, I have enjoyed this conversation, Constance. This has been fun. We got to do this more often. And
Absolutely, always.
yes, and I want everybody to know you can follow Constance at I am Constance Carter. That's her Instagram. Also, she is on Fly Nubian Queen all the time.
Every day.
Yes, so if you go to the Fly Nubian Queen YouTube channel, you can find her there as well. And me, my name is Boyce Watkins, and my website is boycewatkins.com. My new book is called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. Do you have a book, Constance? You have a book, right?
I got a few. I got books. I got the Wealth Accelerator workbook. I got a workbook, Build Credit to Build Wealth. I got this bestseller called Keeping Score, What You Need to Know to Make Your Credit Score Grow. And I got The Secret to Breaking the Broke Code. And these are all birthed out of me having a 379 credit score, being bankrupt, and then opening up the largest Black-owned real estate firm in California. I use my hardships as the blueprint to help other people. So that's there to help everybody out there.
All right. So I am Constance Carter. That's where you can follow her, and I encourage everybody to do that. And thank you again, Constance, for hanging out with us.
Everybody. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, the honor is all mine. And everybody else, thank you so much. The honor is mine as well with speaking with you on a regular basis. Also, don't forget this podcast is on Apple and Spotify. So if you look up Boyce Watkins on Apple and Spotify, you can find me there. I also created a second Spotify podcast called How to Make Money Without Working. So you can feel free to look that up and feel free to go take a look at that. So you guys take care. Hit the thumbs up.
Hold on. Real quick. I have this thing called the Net 7 Collective where I'm helping Black women build their net worth to 7 figures. But I was talking to a lady yesterday, and she actually works for the Black Business School, but she said that she actually started taking your options class. And so she's retired and everything. She said, I'm making so much money in this options class. Like, I've made so much money since I've taken this class. So you guys, if you guys have not tapped into Dr. Boyce's stock classes, you need to. If you really want to grow your money and not blow your money, tap in and take his stock classes if you really want to learn how to grow your wealth.
Wow. And I did not tell her to say that. I did not know she was going to say that. And I'm glad I appreciate you saying that. Absolutely. Yeah. So if you guys want to just take a look or get a free sample of things, you can check my website, boycewatkins.com, or text the word stock to 31996 and we'll send you some free stuff so you can take a look for yourself. So God bless you. And thank you again, Constance. And you guys have a great day. We'll see you soon.
All right. God bless.